Here we see what seems to be a healthy female utilizing her respiratory system by going on a jog. Respiration produces ATP for the body, or energy, allowing this human specimen to jog, while also producing carbon dioxide, a metabolic waste which helps maintain blood pH. With each step, you can see her inspire and expire, which are the actions involved in breathing, or ventilation. Inspiration is the movement of air from outside the body into the lungs. Expiration is the reverse, or exhalation. Inspiration is caused by pressure. If the pressure inside the lungs and alveoli decrease, outside air will be pushed into the airways by atmospheric pressure, involving the action of muscle fibers within the diaphragm. Expiration is largely to do with the elastic tissues of the lungs, which stretches as the lungs expand during inspiration. As the muscle fibers of the diaphragm relax after inspiration, the elastic tissues cause the lungs to return to their original shapes. Here we see a largely different degree of effort in breathing in this female who is doing yoga. With this female's slow and deep breaths, traditional to the practice of yoga, it is easy to note her respiratory cycle, which includes one inspiration and the following expiration. The volume of air that enters or leaves during a respiratory cycle is termed the tidal volume. The average amount of air is 500 milliliters. The inspiratory reserve volume is any extra air that is forced into the lungs in addition to the tidal volume. The expiratory reserve volume is the air leaving the lungs forcefully, and it can include about 1,100 milliliters, more than the 3,000 milliliters of air involved in the inspiratory reserve volume. Even after the most forceful expiration, 1,200 milliliters of air remains in the lungs, known as the residual volume. If you add up the tidal volume of 500 milliliters, the inspiratory reserve volume of 3,000 milliliters, and the expiratory reserve volume of 1,100 milliliters, you get the vital capacity, which is the maximum volume of air a person can exhale after taking the deepest breath possible. The vital capacity and the residual volume is the total lung capacity. Take note of the respiratory structures on this enthusiastic specimen. We have the nose leading to the nasal cavity, which is divided into left and right portions by the nasal septum. The nasal conchae divide the nasal cavity into passageways. They support the mucous membrane that lines the nasal cavity and increases its surface area. The sinuses have mucus secretions drained into the nasal cavity. The pharynx is a passageway for food and air. The larynx is a passageway for air moving in and out of the trachea and houses the vocal cords. The thyroid cartilage shields the thyroid gland, or Adam's apple. The epiglottis partly covers the opening into the larynx and helps prevent foods and liquids from entering the air passages. The trachea is a tube that extends down into the thoracic cavity where it splits into right and left bronchi. The bronchial tree consists of branched airways leading from the trachea to air sacs in the lungs. The branches begin with the right and left primary bronchi. These then branch into the secondary lobar and tertiary bronchi, then into intralobular, terminal, and respiratory bronchioles. The bronchioles then branch into alveolar ducts, sacs, and alveoli where gas exchanges occur. These are all held within the lungs. However, what you don't know is that this jogger has been sharing needles and coughing up blood. The yogi has been coughing and wheezing whenever her boyfriend gives her flowers, and the jazzerciser smokes 3 packs of cigarettes a day and has lately become short of breath and has been wheezing and coughing. Thank you for seeing me today, doctor. How are you doing?
Honestly, I'm a little bummed. My last patient I saw gave birth, and the baby actually had infant death syndrome.
What's that?
Well, it's when the baby's born prematurely and will die suddenly, and the mother actually was a smoker, so it caused the baby to be born prematurely.
That stinks.
Alright, well, enough about me. What brings you in here today?
Well, I've had a bad cough. I've had a fever, night sweats. I've been losing a lot of weight unintentionally, stuff like that.
I understand you have HIV, is that correct?
Yes.
And your occupation?
Preschool teacher.
That's great. Well, we can rule out pneumocommosis, which has similar symptoms that you have, but because you haven't worked in an industry where you've been exposed to different types of organic and inorganic dust, like coal, we can rule it out. But I'm going to go ahead and take a chest x-ray and test the sputum you have been coughing up. Well, it definitely looks like you have TB.
What is that?
Well, it's tuberculosis, and it's an infectious disease caused by myobacteria, which often, like in your case, affects the lungs. But, however, it can affect other parts of the body too.
Why and how did I get it?
Well, because you have HIV, you have a weakened immune system, which wasn't able to fight off the TB germs. You likely were exposed to someone else who had TB, who coughed on you, or you shared a drink with, and they infected you with the myobacteria. I'm going to have to prescribe you several drugs, and you're going to have to take them over the period of 6 to 9 months.
Hey doctor, how was your weekend?
It was alright. I visited my family up in the Swiss Alps, and I think I got mountain sickness, so it wasn't too good.
What's that?
Well, it's this thing where you go up altitude too high, and you have symptoms like nausea, insomnia, headaches, and stuff like that, so.
That's too bad, man.
Yeah. But I feel better now. So, how are you feeling? What brings you in here today?
Well, I've been noticing that whenever I'm around flowers, I start to wheeze and cough. Kind of like,
Do you have reoccurrent episodes of wheezing, breathlessness, and like your chest being tight?
yeah, definitely.
Well, it's obviously not cystic fibrosis since your symptoms do not appear during childhood.
What is cystic fibrosis?
Cystic fibrosis is caused by the mutation in a gene for a protein that is required to regulate components of sweat, digestive fluids, and mucus. So, the lack of this protein causes cyst formation within the pancreas that will cause lung infections, sinus infections, poor growth, and infertility.
I'm glad I don't have that.
You should be. It sounds like, however, you have asthma. While there is no cure for this, you can improve your symptoms by staying away from the allergen, which in your case is pollen from the flowers. I'm also going to prescribe you a bronchodilator in the form of an inhaler. What brings you in here today?
Well, I'm not feeling too well, doctor. I've been coughing up sputum, I've been having shortness of breath and a sore throat, and my muscles have been aching, and I've been getting tired easily, and I have a constant headache and fever.
Well, that doesn't sound good. I think we should take a physical examination of your chest. Take deep breaths, please. One more. It sounds to me like you have diminished breath sounds, wheezing, and prolonged exhalation. I think we're going to need to take a chest x-ray. Well, we can rule out lung cancer because you don't have uncontrolled cell growth in tissues of the lung. You don't have pneumonia, an inflammatory condition of the lung caused by viruses or bacteria, because I don't see any wedge-shaped bacterial pneumonia in your lungs in the chest x-ray. You also don't have emphysema, which is when the tissues necessary to support the shape and function of the lungs are destroyed. And because the x-ray didn't show a barrel-like chest or flat diagram.
So it sounds like I don't have any chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases.
Nope, not quite. You have chronic bronchitis, which along with emphysema is a COPD. Chronic bronchitis is a chronic inflammation of the bronchi in the lungs. This is probably because you smoke cigarettes. I'm going to have to prescribe you a bronchodilator and advise you to stop smoking. Oh.
Wait, stop.
Thank you, doctor.
Should be. Oh, shoot. Are you recording?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. All right.